Here's the Armoured Spider-Man Mark 1 on the retro cutback. Although I am glad that we finally have the Armoured Spidey, there are plenty of things I want to share with you guys about this figure. Here's a closer look at the clamshell, and the picture of the Spider Armor Mark 1 is definitely not accurate to the animated series. And here's the back of the packaging with the bio and the rest of the figures in the wave. I really like the retro cutback, and it hurts every single time I open the packaging, lol. I usually open it with minimal damage even though I end up throwing it away. Here's how I open the packaging using a ruler and inserting it at the gap at the bottom. Incline the ruler forward and push through the whole side. Do the same for the other side. Once done, just pull out the clamshell, and the cutback is not visibly damaged, and you can actually insert the clamshell back in and glue it back if you want to. Here's the figure in the clamshell, and it really looks good. I'll be comparing it more with the comic version since the animated series version follows the comic appearance closely. Let's get the figure out. Here's the figure out of the packaging. It comes with a pair of fists, web shooting hands, and 2 web effects. I would say he doesn't come with a wall crawling hand because in the comics, in his single issue appearance, he wasn't doing any wall crawling at all in any of the panels, and he went straight into the battle with the new enforcers. So yeah, I guess that's why it doesn't come with a wall crawling hand. Here's a closer look at the web shooting hand. It has decent texture and sculpt on it. Here is a closer look at the 2 web effects. One is slightly bigger than the other. Kind of reminds me of a snowflake actually. And I guess they gave us this because maybe to pay tribute to the Toybiz version that came with this. But this looks kind of awkward, like it's really a dome shape. These 2 effects are definitely better looking, although I don't know how to make use of this in an ACBA shot. The design of the fist is the same as the web shooting hand. Here's a hand swap of the fist with the web shooting hands. It comes off and attaches quite easily. The unmasked head from the all-new all-different Spider-Man 2-pack fits the figure nicely. Here's a look at the front and the back of the figure. There's plenty of things I want to share with you about with regards to his appearance, because the appearance of this figure is really not based off on the comics version, but it is based on the PS4 Spider-Man game. Overall, the figure does really look great with all the sculpt and details on it. You can clearly see the web sculpt on the armors and also the texture on the black parts of the figure. So that is really awesome about this figure. However, let's get into the differences between the comic version and this figure. It has a really modern look, unlike the classic version that appeared in the costume in Web of Spider-Man issue number 100 back in 1993. Let's start off with the head. For the head sculpt, it is quite similar to the comics. However, the eyes on the figure are painted black, unlike in the comic and the animated series where it's white. And on the back of the head, the comic version has the armor all the way down to the bottom of the head. So this version has this part in black. The shoulder armor protrudes more, unlike this figure. In the comics, the armor at the elbow extends longer over the elbow, but this figure does not have that. And instead, it has these 2 metallic parts at the elbow joint. The spider logo at the front is close enough to the comic version, but at the back, it is really modern looking and different from the comic version. It definitely follows the PS4 version, but it does look damn good. This figure has plenty of gaps on the armor, like you have it here on the torso, on the waist, at the belt area, and also on the shoulders and the forearm. That's because it is based on the PS4 version. There's a bit of muscle definition at the side of the torso. I find it kind of unnecessary because he is wearing an armor and he doesn't need to have the muscles definition showing. Check out the knuckles of the comic version. It actually has a spider shape on it. And the top part of the hands is sculpted just like the rest of the armor. But for this figure, it doesn't have the sculpted web lines at the top of the hands, and the knuckles doesn't have the spider shape as well. It's also lacking the armor at this part of the finger as well. The figure has a different texture on the thigh area. It has the dotted texture like the rest of the figure, but over here is striped at the sides of the thigh. In the comics, the black parts are all the same. The figure is also missing the extended armor at the knees. In the comics, from the knees all the way down to the toes, it is armored. Unlike this figure which has the gaps and the bottom part of the feet is actually not really armored at all. It's only at the top part of the feet. Again, you can see gaps at the outer side of the calf and also on the inner side of the calf. The feet actually has decent texture on it. Articulation. It has the newer barbell ball joint, so the head is able to tilt sideways that much. It's only able to look down this much and up this much. If the back of the head has a notch like this retro spidey, then it will be able to look up higher. And of course able to rotate all around. This much up sideways, bicep swivel, double hinge, elbow joint, which does give good articulation and also is updated to the pinless joints. The standard swivel and hinge joint of the hands. Ab crunch allows the figure to move forward this much and this much to the back. When it goes to the back, you can see a bit of gap and the black part at the center of the torso. Waist swivel. This much split. This much frontal split. Thigh swivel. Double hinge knee joint. Pinless as well. Ankle hinge and pivot. Decent articulation, just lacking the shoulder butterfly joints in my opinion. And I do wonder whether a mid-torso joint would work with the spider armor figure. Here's a comparison with the Toybiz Armored Spider-Man. This is the only armored spider we have so far in the 6-inch line, and it's really terrible as you can see. One hand has normal articulation and the other hand is a gimmick hand. And the articulation of this figure is really poor. You can see the diaper crotch over here. The armor isn't even supposed to go down all the way to the other side or something. And yeah, the articulation can only go up like this for the legs and single hinge joint at the knees. It does kind of have the extended armor at the knees, just like in the comics. And it has the armors from the knees all the way down to the feet, just like in the comics. At the back, the figure is also not accurate. It doesn't have the spider logo and the head is also not armored. So this version is kind of accurate from the front but isn't from the back, and overall it's a terrible figure because, you know, it's really kind of like a statue. You can't really pose it, and the hands are also different. Looks like kind of exoskeleton or something on the fingers. It isn't supposed to have silver line all the way down the finger. Between these two, it's a no-brainer. Definitely the new one is way better than the Toybiz version, even though the Toybiz version is kind of more comic accurate, at least in terms of the front of the figure. Here's a look at the side of the figure and the back. The newer one is definitely better. There is texture on the Toybiz version as well, but yeah, the newer one also has that texture. Here's a comparison with the Absorbing Man, Ben Reilly Spidey, and Retrowave Spidey. The Armored Spider is slightly shorter than these two Spidey figures. The height difference is more obviously seen from the side view. Here he is with Pizza Spidey and Retrowave Spidey. Here is Spidey 2099 and Scarlet Spider. The 2099 head looks kind of small compared to the Iron Spider. Here's the Retrowave Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. The Peter Parker figure actually looks kind of slightly bigger than the Armored Spider. And since he's based on the Spider-Man game, here is Gamerverse Spidey, Armored Spidey Mark III, and Velocity Spidey. I think the two Armored Spideys looks great side by side. And out of these 4 Gamerverse Spidey figures, I like the Velocity the least. Not because of the design, but because of the sculpt of the figure. Really feels kind of like Iron Man-ish. So like I said earlier, I'm glad we got an Armored Spider-Man, but at the same time, I'm kind of disappointed as well because it is neither comic nor cartoon accurate. Instead, we got the PS4 Spider-Man version of the figure. I'm probably gonna try to get an extra of this and ask someone to custom it to a comic accurate version. Anyways, in terms of the figure itself, it does have good sculpt and paintwork. And I think it should be easier to find one with a decent paintwork, unlike the Ben Reilly Spider-Man figure from the same wave, which has a high tendency of having messed up webline paintwork. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe if my review and comparison videos help, and check out the Ben Reilly review over here.